Hello. Thank you for joining us this morning. Okay, at 10:07, we're going to call the Design Council meeting of Monday, June 3rd to order. First item on our agenda today is the approval of the minutes from the April 1st meeting. Does anybody have a motion for the April 1st? I'll move to approve the minutes. I would second. We got a motion by Matt, a second by Jeff Best to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, second item on the agenda today is the LW Clapp Park artwork final design presentation by Sonia Gredeman, Osman. Sonia?
Yeah.
We'll turn it over to you now.
Okay, well, you don't need to hear from me this morning. It's Osman's show, so. We've been meeting with Osman, and we feel like he's satisfied all the requirements and the input from the Design Council. So I know we're short on time, so we'll let him go.
Okay. I have the presentation that the council seen before with additional pages and information. I'm just going to go through that, and this is, of course, available to you anytime you want to see it personally as well, if you want to look at it afterwards. But I'm just going to share my screen with you very quickly and hope that this is going to work. Window. There we are. I'm assuming everybody can see it.
Yes.
Very good. So this is the presentation that you've seen before. I'm just going to point out what we're doing differently. So this is the stuff that you've seen before. So we're going to the changes that we've applied. As was requested to bring the upper structure higher if possible. Yes, it is possible, and we have actually raised it to 11 feet now. It can possibly also go to 12 feet, but then I'm kind of thinking it's going to be a little too high and kind of separated, let's say, from the audience a little too much. Therefore, 11 feet is, I think, I'm looking at it here and it's pretty high and out of reach. So that concern should be satisfied. We've removed the top and bottom panels. Therefore, this is now empty. There's no accumulation on top of it, as far as the air circulation or any possible like bee nesting or anything like that inside. And that leaves us with the colors and additional design decisions, as well as the engineering, which I'm going to show you in a second. These are the colors that I've been playing with. I have the glass makers supplied me with sample panels to my specifications. The only difference is they are thinner because they're smaller samples. The one that we're going to eventually have, which is going to be 2 feet by 2 feet each panel, is going to be thicker than this. I think actually about twice the size of the thickness of this. This a detail, doesn't really matter that much, but so I have these shots taken, and I also have the samples here. I can show it to you. These are dichroic panels, and therefore, they change their color based on the sunlight and the angle of the viewing audience. And these are static color. In other words, you know, if it's green or purple or blue, in this case, for example, it's always blue, always purple, always green. So we're using a combination of the two to address one. Well, first of all, make it even more colorful, but more importantly, to address the concern of the committee that if it's an overcast day, would the dichroic not generate enough color? Well, each cube will have one dichroic, one solid color panel out of approximately 42 small and about 10 sorry, 42 large, 10 small cubes. These are the static colors in another shot. As you can see, the color of the glass and the shadow is the same, whereas these are the dichroic ones. The reflection is different from the refraction, which is usually chromatic opposite. If this is orange, this is blue or cyan. If it's green, it's magenta. These are the dichroic colors with you know dichroic panels, and this is their reflection. So as you can see, cyan reflects orange, magenta reflects green, and orange reflects blue. This is my engineer's drawings for the foundation design. I don't know how much you care about this, but we're actually doing a anchoring system that is a pole as decided before. There are two poles of steel that are going to be going into the ground about, not about, this is actually a definite, but of 6 feet. And then it's going to be buried in a concrete column on both ends. And then we're attaching the upper structure to this, these, call it pilings. And these are the detailed drawings of how thick what's the base plate, where to plate it, and what the details about the nuts and bolts. What kind of nuts do we need? What kind of bolts do we need, and so on and so forth. This is the placement, top-down placement of the glass panels. They're made out of L-channel aluminum that, you know, comes to a 3-axis corner, and the glass is on one side, and it's bracketed with a bracket that looks like this. So there's a bracket that holds the glass. This is the L channel that holds the outer side, and then the inside. I'm thinking about making this bracket the length of the glass, though I don't have to, but I was thinking that if I make it that way, the inside of the cube will match the outside of the cube. It's at this point, it's actually a aesthetic concern. You know, it's not a it's not a structural concern. So this is the elevation of the column connection, which is how the upper structure is attached to the piling. And where it is, this is about the size that we're and the location of the artwork. It's going to be about 20, I would think 22 feet by 11 feet, give or take, because we're going to have to make the frame slightly larger than the glass, obviously. And that changes over, you know, 20, 25 cubes. That ends up being like another foot or so in length. This is, you know, preliminary calculation. And this is the location of the sun and the sun path. So the right side is north, therefore it actually gets sunlight all day long. from this angle to that angle, and I'm using this information to place the glass panels in such a way that it catches the sunlight throughout the day and casts shadows throughout the day, and so on and so forth. So that's where we are. That's with that, I'm open to any questions you have. I can show you the glass by stopping this share if you want. How do I stop it though? Did I stop it? I think I stopped it, right? Do you see me or the screen?
We see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just as, these are my samples. As you can see, they're quite reflective, and you can tell the color difference. The reflected color on this one is green, refracted is purple and magenta and orange. And, as you turn, it goes to different shades. This is one possibility. This is another possibility. Now this is orange and cyan and, reddish, not exactly reddish, but orangish. And I'm kind of thinking that just to be more playful, I can make the big ones in certain hue and the smaller cubes in other hue that will actually even add more color and so on and so forth. And this is the static glass. As you can see, the refraction and reflection match. If it's blue, it's always blue. And or if it's reddish, it's always red, or if it's orange, it's always orange, and so on and so forth. It's just easier to generate colors in these because, as you can see, if I put them on top of each other, let's say orange and blue, it creates a different kind of shade of blue, and I can specify that with the glass maker, saying I want this blue, I want that green, and so on and so forth. This is about it. I mean, as far as the
That's good, Alderman. I was gonna say, I think we're good for the moment. Sonia, anything you want to add before we open this up for questions from Design Council?
No, I just think that Osmond kind of addressed the birds sitting on it, because birds really don't like the darting reflective surface of the color panels. They've got trees right there, and it's going to be too hot in the summer. So we really don't think it's going to be a problem. So I think that's good. Of course, the height is good. And I think he addressed everything you guys were concerned about.
Design Council, questions? And Tyler and Ella, if you got a question, please do your raise hand app and Dana will catch it.
I only have one question.
Mhm.
So good job on raising it and take care of that. I totally agree that it solves a lot of the concerns.
Thank you.
Does the glass sit in any kind of a gasket? Or is it just
Yes.
metal?
No, I don't put glass on metal.
Okay.
It will have a what they call it, a corner gasket. So it's like a U channel. It sits in it, and these are 3D printed models that I made, but for the tryout of how this is larger than what it is going to be, but essentially this is like an L channel. Let me see, like that. So you get two L channels, and you kind of cut the corners and then weld them, and therefore you get something like this, or you get something like this, right? So the glass actually sits on the inside. It's not as wide as this, inside right here. So it's always sitting on something, and then the bracket will hold it like so. And I want to make sure that the bracket, by the time it's installed, is flush and there's nothing sticking out. Aesthetic concerns, but a valid one. And the glass will then actually have a U form or shaped gasket. So the glass will never actually touch the metal for two reasons. One, it'll be safer for the glass. And two, if there's any kind of oscillation on the metal, which I don't think is going to be at this because it's got a lot of connections, it'll be probably, it's not going to move at all. But even if it's like a millimetric motion, the gasket will absorb it, and the glass will never have lateral load applied to it. And we're also making, so this has nothing to do with this. This is for a garden thing, but if you think of it as a bracket that will hold the glass that is in here, I'm using this bracket logic so that if need be, we can actually take this nut out and take the bracket out and change the glass, say, 15 years down the line, one of them broke or something, whatever reason it might be. So we're really working on it so that it is reversible. Not that we're going to need it, but in case we need it. There are different kinds of enveloping the glass into a channel and making sure that it is safe, but I think if we can find a way of making it so that we can reverse the installation, or if need be, then I'd like to do it that way.
Any other questions? And from Miller or Tyler, anybody have a motion to present?
Make a motion to approve the artwork for platform as presented.
Motion by Jeff Best. Is there a second?
Second.
Jesse? Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Osmond. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Osman. Thank you very much, Design Council.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda today is the Northwest Wichita Water Treatment Facility, the location or relocation of the Jill and Gulcher. Grant is with us today. Good morning.
Good morning, Council.
Turn it over to you at this point, Grant.
Graham, would you like to share your screen or would you like for me to?
I could share my screen. First, I'll give an overview. Is that visible to the council?
Yes.
So we're talking about art location 1, which was originally planned down in the southern corner of the water facility. You can see location 1 across the way from Windmill Road. There has been some concern over that placement and a desire to change that location closer to the admin building. I don't know if you can see my cursor. But I'll also show you this later in the artist's presentation, but the proposal is to move this closer to the admin building to alleviate some of the concerns from this other location. Primarily visibility is the concern, but let me switch gears to my other screen. Here we go. So you've seen this rendering. This is roughly showing a rendering at the original location in the corner, the southern corner. Here's an on-site shot from not too long ago. There concerns the reason, and I'll present the reasonings for this new location. The main concern is the visibility not being great enough for passing cars and passersby. There's also a major concern about underground utilities that have now been planned to go right where we had planned for that location, electrical line for the generator. And then, as you saw in the previous slide, the berm is pretty significant. So overcoming that would mean a higher plinth or base for the sculpture. And there's a concern for that because raising the cost of the piece. Also, still some concern about not overcoming that visibility. And additionally, the reasoning for switching, well, it's going to be a lot easier logistically because in order to go to the original site down there, the artist would have to remove the fencing, drive around the entire site with the concrete truck to bring in the concrete for the footer, and then replace the fencing, or do some type of temporary until the art is actually installed. So that'll relieve that. And the concern about the artist had a concern about the length of time that the panels would provide for power. You know, at this location, at the previous location, this LED lighting system would be powered by solar lighting. So there would be some cost there for upkeep, the batteries, and then concern about wind and snow in the winter time. So the other big reason for moving this would be the ability to wire into the administration building, just alleviating that load concern. If there's not enough sun, for example, during the daytime, there wouldn't be the full nighttime LED because the piece has light that changes over the course of the evening. So there was some concern that that might not last all through the night if there wasn't enough sun or if there was snow, etc. So a longer lifespan. Here is the artist's rendering at the new site. You can see the admin building there on the left-hand side. I'll go back to the previous spot. It's hard to see, but this yellow X is the new proposed location. This blue boundary is kind of the good spots that we saw. And so this is kind of centralized in that overall possible location, keeping it far enough from trees that will eventually grow to size, and also getting it close enough to that bike path so that people can see it. So back to the rendering, this is roughly where the new location is planned. And so we asked the council for approval to move this for the reasons stated.
Any questions from design council members?
I was wondering how close it is to that light and will that affect it at all, the light pole?
Yeah, good question. Light pole, we noticed we wanted to keep it far enough away from the light pole that it won't obstruct view or take anything away from the piece. And so after looking at this, we together with Brandon and with the artist wanted to move it to a kind of the central area in the possible location because of that concern of being too close to the light pole. So after the artist reviewed that, they felt comfortable in this overall location, but also in keeping this far enough away from the light pole not to distract.
So this is Ella. So the
Yes, ma'am.
rendering the rendering that was shown that the artist provided, it wouldn't be that close. You're saying there'd be more distance between the sculpture and the light pole than what we see on this rendering, right?
A little bit of more room because I think the artist had rendered this a little bit too close to this left plantings, the trees. So moving it a bit more to the right. The artist said that they're flexible with the location within this zone. And by the way, this zone is ideal because that the utilities are not present there like they are in the original location. So there are, if we go a little outside of this, there is concern of hitting electrical underground. So within this box or kind of rectangular shape, the artist stated she's okay with moving this. And I think that we could go even further here to the right-hand side.
Any, Jeff?
Was there any consideration of pulling it off of the roadway a little bit further?
Well, I think that because of the limitations of utilities and tree plantings, we felt that this was kind of the best solution for visibility and for bringing it close enough to the road to be visible. In my opinion, this is going to be a much better solution than the previous location. Location 1 was originally planned. If everything had worked out ideally, that it could have been a great spot, but it's not going to be seen like we had anticipated and hoped for. So the newer location close to the administration building, we feel it'll still get visibility from the road, be close to the walkway for people to see, and then have the added advantage of no concern with the power system.
Grant, what I'd say is that I don't think I'd allow a freshly planted 2-inch caliber tree to dictate where this goes. I think that possibly, and this is kind of up to the artist and you and the folks out there about the final location, but you may want to consider the option of pulling it off of the roadway a little bit, putting it more in context with the planting around it, not let those, again, freshly planted trees kind of limit you.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in, and I was gonna say the exact same thing Jeff just did, that those are, I know the trees are planted and I know they're there, but this sculpture gets relocated, it's got to work at this location. And we can relocate 1 or 2 trees without it being a major issue, especially their bleeds. So I have concerns about how close we are to the light pole. I like to pull it off of the bike path just a little bit, or almost right up on the bike path. So I like to pull it, scoot it to the east a little bit and as far away to the south from that light pole that we can get it within reason. And I wouldn't hesitate to do trees to make that happen appropriately.
That's good feedback. Yeah. I'm completely open to pushing that east and south as far as possible And then, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but moving a tree or two would be great. Push them back.
That's where Jeff and I are looking at. I mean, that's the general area we're sitting here
Mhm.
poking at on the screen, so.
Mhm.
Might add just to that, if you're looking for any kind of specifics on where it could go, I mean, my understanding is the bike path is running basically horizontal on this slide. I don't know what direction that is, but it's kind of northwest to southeast, parallel to the building. Is that
Mhm.
right? From the left, right?
Yes.
Would you put it on access with that? So when you're, I mean, it's a formal deal, right? I mean, you're riding your bicycle, you're walking, you see it right on access with the sidewalk. If you're looking for some specific design direction for location, you could do that. And then you just push it. You just decide how far you want to push it. So that feels right.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense with the curving bike path. By pushing it back further, from what just summarizing your statement, that pushing it back further allows people going this way on the path to see it, and then people headed north on the path to see it as well, easier.
Yeah, usually when you have, just in my mind, when you have some iconic element like that,
Mm-hmm.
you like to put it kind of on axis with your path.
Sure. So the notes I've taken are: one, push back because of the light pole. Two, push back more from the bike path because it's just a little too crowded there, and then move trees to allow for that, and to allow for it to be most visible from bike path as it kind of converges at that point. That all makes sense to me.
So, design council, do we have somebody ready to put that into a motion? Might I suggest that if you're willing, the final location, we'll turn over to Jana to settle on the final location.
That's fine. Make a motion that we approve the new location for Jill's sculpture as presented with the comments that were made about tree relocation and an adjustment to where the sculpture lands.
You had the part about Jana gets final.
Yes, and she gets final decision. Thank you.
No stress on that. Motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Go put a flag out there.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And
Aye.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
With that, we're going to move to item number 4 on the agenda today, which is the League 42 baseball baller design presentation by Ella, the design council member. So she'll be stepping down to make this presentation. With us in the audience today is Mr. Lutz, who has, thank you for your efforts with this league. League 42 has been a fantastic thing. If you need to add something at the end, put your arm up and get you in there. Ella, it's all yours.
Ella, do you want to share your
Okay.
screen or do you want me to do it from mine?
Can you do it from yours, please?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Can you scroll up just a little bit to the first image? Thank you. There it is. All right. So, in discussions with Bob and with Troy as far as a solution that would deter future vandalism. And as we're moving towards uh, the replacement of the statue and the unveiling of the new one, we were discussing what possibilities there were as far as to both be something that could um, engage the players and the youth that use the park, and um, so that they could be a part of the solution and be able to um, respond in a constructive way to what happened. And so both of those objectives are met with the proposal that I'm about to share with you, both to deter vandalism, but also to give a way for players and youth and families that are connected with League 42 in the park to be a part of a solution. Can you go to the next one, please? Okay, that's me on a better day. So um, so I've created that artwork that's on those panels, and the theme of the artwork was based upon Sharon Robinson's book, Jackie's Nine. That's Jackie Robinson's daughter. So there's all these different principles um, that were embodied through Jackie Robinson's life. And I was already doing a project with the youth, some youth at Louverture, when the statue was stolen. And they had chosen social justice as an issue that they wanted to address. And I said that, this is a social injustice on your doorstep. And so we took some walks over to the pavilion, and we talked about Jackie's 9 values. And the students came up with statements that reflected how they could apply Jackie's values of justice and excellence and determination and the like, to their lives, and um, to make the community a better place. And then League 42 had an event on April 13th that was like a scrimmage demonstration game, and there was a health fair, and there were a lot of students from um, the osteopathic school, and there was a moment where we gathered at the pavilion as well. And during that time, I continued to collect some words of wisdom inspired by Jackie's 9 values from the people the children and the families and the medical students that were there that day. And so the concept is to incorporate those statements into the artwork that we're going to add. Could you go to the next one? Oh, there it is. So when you think about this, the bollards are something that prevent someone from being able to drive up, and that's how that theft took place. Somebody backed their truck up close enough to the statue to be able to take it. So these bollards would prevent that, and there would be 3, and we've gone out to the site with the city's engineer and identified the ideal locations for these 3 bollards to be placed. And they would be round, kind of like the ones you see here. They're about 2,000 pounds. And we discussed that because the city is taking measures to um, increase security in the park, that this could be an expense that they would cover, and that League 42 would pay the cost to beautify the bollards. Can you go to the next one? So this just gives you some information on how these things are built. They're 36 inches in diameter. They basically have a hollow cavity underneath, and we can the installation of these is something that we would ask the city to do or to facilitate um, if this project is approved. But this just gives you an idea of what the manufacturer recommends as far as the way to install these. So embedding a steel pipe, and then that's what's underneath the actual concrete bollard. So this is a rendering that shows you what it would look like. So they'll be made to look like baseballs. And there'll be mosaics that'll be attached to the concrete bollard underneath. And the 3 locations. This gives you an idea of where those would be. And the idea is that all those statements, they were handwritten by each person. So they're handwriting their actual words. And a lot of times it said their name and their age. That would be transferred to a tile and fired. And then those would be what the mosaic is made out of. Can you go to the next one really quick? So this just gives you some other angles that you can look at it. We'd add the baseball stitching. Sorry, my brain. Add the baseball stitching around there. And then one of the balls would say 42 on it. Can you go to the next one? Yep. So this just gives you some ideas about where these would be located and about the size that they would be. Can you go one more? Yeah. Yep. So that's the general idea. And then these are some, just like you see a signed baseball that has all the members of the team, that's kind of how it would look. But it would have their statements. So this is one 5th grader, Aiden. He said, in baseball, you can play for fun. If you aren't good, practice makes perfect. And then Elijah, he said, if you are courageous and confident in yourself, you can do anything you can put your mind to. So there's other similar statements by these youth and also some of those medical students. And at this point, I think I have about 300 statements that they've written out on I basically used something that's about the same size as the tile so that we could, translate them onto that. And all the tiles are custom made. So yeah, if that gives you an idea. I think this is the last slide. Is that right?
It is, you got the timeline, and Ella, I don't know if it helps you, but due to your sound of your voice, I'm gonna cut you off early.
Okay.
Unless you have something you really want to say, I'm gonna take it to questions from design council. Do you have any questions for Ella? I think my one question, you mentioned you had 300, approximately 300 of these quotes. How many are you thinking you're gonna use?
I'm gonna try to use all of them. That's my
Okay.
goal. I mean, I had even the grown-ups, if they cross something out or they, I was like, you need to rewrite that. So, yeah, I think once I explained what this was and the idea that they'd be a part of something permanent, that meant a lot. And my intention is to capture all the contributions that were made to this project. So my goal is to use all of them.
Any other questions? Anybody have a motion they'd like to present?
I'd move to approve the project as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve, and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Hello, for the record, stated.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Hang on if you can. We need you for our forum.
I'm hanging.
We'll try not to make you talk anymore. Next item on the agenda today is incubation memorial proposed final design concept. You have to help me, Jana. Where is this located at?
There are 3 parks that Dave's has proposed, or he proposed at his initial concept presentation.
Dave
Dave, can I do-
Belcher. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oceanic.
Yes, if
Scroll over. All right, so just an update from my April presentation where I proposed the idea, got approval to come back with some design. Just a summary. Representing the Maxwell Collective here. The idea was to have 3 muralists design 3 murals that operate as form of a 3-page illustration representing the idea of having a healthy mind, body, and human spirit. I've highlighted what's changed since our last time I was here. So looking to have it done by the end of autumn. Something that was added to the motion was the extent of threat that would be needed at the Boston Park location. And so I just wanted to explain that it would be multiple layers of paint that would need to be removed. And so the idea would be wire brush, pool scraper, power scraper, potential paint stripper to get that done. Reiterating that we have a budget to complete all murals as far as materials go. And update on the grants that I talked about last time I was here was the Park Council grant was declined, and then reached out to the Wichita Parks Foundation at the suggestion of Troy Houtman and did not hear back. And that was just to be cover artist time, but the artists are volunteering right now. And so since we last met, I completed the scavenger hunt. Left 3 different themed packages that followers could go and find, and each one had a hand painted trinket box that represented sort of themes, being like a mountain, for the mind, sort of stretching towards the sky, and being a bit like a tree, and sort of going with the flow, represented with the water and the universe there. And so each mural designs sort of maintain the same themes and aesthetics for their correlated trinket box. And so this is Indiana Elman's design for the Captain Park. It would encompass that entire top tan section, leaving the rougher brick on the bottom alone. The wall facing hydraulic entrance there, Chapman. And this is the mind, which is sort of that as the butterfly. This is the location at Boston Park, designed by myself. With the beginning stages, it's the body of the caterpillar staring off into the expanse. And also to the body being represented in the design. Caterpillar getting morning sunlight and stretching, sort of I think a yoga type pose. This is Anthony Parker's butterfly design for the location at Harrison Park. It would encompass an entire wall there, the door, including the aspect of the water and the plug there at the bottom. But the black portion on the top would not be there, and there'd be further design on either side added. So some design notes here. Same color palette will be maintained for all 3 designs. And just with the Boston location being the most prep and design being the most complete at this time, just wanted to explore the idea of the council possibly approving just the Boston location at this time for implementation as a proof of concept, returns the results, and the updated designs for the cocoon and butterfly. Okay.
Thank you. So help me a little bit.
Yeah.
And this may be to Lindsay, but temporary public art installation, what's temporary and?
Did I put temporary?
We may have, I think the intent of the word temporary there is that would not be included in the permanent public art collection.
Okay.
But yeah, it'd be.
I'm good with that. I'm reading my agenda. It has the word temporary in there, which you may not have known, but I understand why she did that now.
Yeah.
So. Any questions from Design Council?
I
Here-
couldn't understand what the request, I couldn't understand the words as far as what the request was. Did you say just approving the Boston Park location right now?
Well, I'm totally fine with approving all three, but if there's any apprehension, but just because as three of us, an artist collective, we're still working on the design for fulfilling the entire project goals on the butterfly and Harrison and the cocoon as well. So
You mean the entire wall space of those?
no, the entire design for the wall space, right? Because that's a render here, it's not fulfilling the entire wall space.
But it would be.
But it would be,
Yes, good.
yeah.
So the concept is right on. Just needs a little more development.
Yes, on the other two, yeah.
The question is, do we need to see more development or can it just be approved today?
Exactly, yeah.
For this Harrison Park one, is that, is on the restroom building near the sports courts or is it at the?
Yeah, I think it's close to the tennis courts are right there next to it.
And so this is like the rear side of the restrooms. It's not where like you actually enter. This is like the main. It's on the back.
That in the back, yeah, so the walking path, if you're walking around Harrison, this is be connected right to the walking path. There's also the option for the wall to the left. On that right here, the base of the baseball courts.
Is that door operable?
I'm not 100% sure.
It's gotta be a storage. It's gotta be storage inside the
Yeah,
restrooms.
be clear, but I would suspect is that normal to paint over a door like that? And does that,
When it comes to yeah.
But it's not the main entrance to the restrooms itself. Those are on the.
I didn't know it probably has hardware on it and hinges and stuff.
Yeah,
It's a joint.
And any sort of metallic movable hinges will be taped off and secured, and it would just be the frame and the actual door itself that would be painted.
I'll make sure I'm tracking with the answer you gave Jeff on that concept. That area will cover the whole wall.
Yes.
Okay.
And Anthony's pretty accomplished. It's I guess most notable mural and one outside of North. Was there?
I'm comfortable. Motion to approve all three as presented with the understanding that the first one and the third one, which leaves find one at Chapin and
Sold one here.
so one at Harrison,
Mhm.
correct? Would extend across the entire wall.
Yes. With just a note, in case it was missed, that the first one will not include the rougher brick sand. Yeah.
Upper portion of the entire wall.
I'm good with that. Before you get a second, my only caveat that I'm gonna ask you if you'll add to that, as long as the general intent matches what they're
Yes.
showing us. If you do a 180 and go a different direction, then
Yeah. Oh.
maybe bring that.
Yeah, if it deviates
Yeah.
much from what's presented, please bring it back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so motion from Jeff. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Ella, thank you. So motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Just as we're sitting here and I don't remember, what's the city's, what have we been doing with murals as far as long-term maintenance wise? Is this adding that?
Yeah.
Been just a little bit since I last asked or heard that.
Great question, and I might default to Janet here. This is where we want to disseminate what's our permanent public art collection, which is what we are responsible for maintaining in perpetuity. That would be part of our annual maintenance, but then we would have temporary art projects that by no means do we expect these to go up for a month and then go away, but they would be something that we would anticipate maintaining in perpetuity. We would hope that the artist would utilize some sort of anti-graffiti coating or something that would help the longevity of it, but it's not something we would maintain as part of our collection maintenance plan.
Yeah, the intent would be that artists ourselves would cover graffiti or make sure there's coats on it and paint touch-ups if needed.
And even when we get to the point where it's the end of life for the murals and they need significant attention, we always reach out to the artists or the original coordinator of it to see what their intent is, if they want to do something new or if we whitewash it and start over with a future project.
That temporary can be 1 year, it could be 20. We just don't have to maintain whatever's there permanently. Any other quick discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
That says unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Then the last item on the agenda today is the Westlink Library final design concept presentation. Stephen? That would here.
Yeah. What's that? Okay. So this was actually presented over a year ago, I think, originally, and then we had some changes, and then just budgetary expenses and whatnot. And so I think this overall concept was approved last time, if I remember right, but you guys want to see some of the details. And so remember, you know, these little jewels that, you know, the fine details that, give me that, remind me what this project is about. It's a teen reading area in the Westlake Library. So space will be, you know, designated for teen books around the outside, and there's an interior space for readers. So now the interior is kind of a landscape on this steel wall. It's stainless steel with polychrome panels to create, you know, a landscape effect. And then it has these recessed circles that are kind of reminiscent of a fluttering butterfly or a leaf floating through the air or some type of organic flow. And within those circles, I propose to put in little icons for the kids to look at. And my kind of thought was that, you know, teens of this generation are communicating very differently than probably everyone in this room did at that age, and by using symbols. And I've always been attracted to symbols, and so that's. Here's a flat view of that, flattened out. And so some of these symbols are just simple emojis. I presented this to the library council of the group that's doing the committee of the library as just all emojis, but they kind of wanted to go back to the original concept was emojis and other symbols. And so I've kept in some of these emoji symbols that are just kind of fun and interesting to me. A lot of different opportunities there. I actually sent a list to Jana several weeks ago, and she advised me of many different things that are inappropriate amongst emojis that I had no idea of. And so I appreciate her efforts in that. I knew the obvious ones, but I guess there's some that are not quite so obvious. So if there are, we'll review that one last time before we execute these symbols to make sure there's nothing inappropriate. So more symbols, emojis, just fun images. Then I want to have symbols that are not so mainstream or not so common to the youth, where they might recognize. Obviously, they're going to recognize the hand symbol as a means of language. Also, symbols that I'm attracted to and find fascinating are symbols in industry. These are all electronic symbols for the kids to look at and experience. Native American symbols. I think the ones on the right are a little too clean. I'd actually like to maybe try to find some more symbols that are like off this hieroglyphic type rock. It was in Utah. we could pull some more symbols off it, but ultimately symbols that are native to this land. We find symbols everywhere. These are all food symbols. You're right. Don't eat peanuts. You know, this contains something that's should have. I want to put some of those in there. I love the national park symbols that they created. They're just simple and succinct, and they explain, you know, that there's horseback riding in this area, or there's fishing in this area. Those are great fun symbols. Symbols that date back to the 17th century, where alchemy is used to disguise research, right? To keep things secret. So these symbols are used to experiment in alchemy. So I'll put some of those in there. Also, we have Celtic symbols. Could be part of this grouping. Greek symbols, probably not the entire alphabet, but some that are just a little off. You know, obviously A, B is part of our language, but you know, that delta, the pi symbol, those are all great symbols that could be included. I came across these symbols as a kid, you know, hobo symbols. You never know that there's such a thing, but I think about this when I see these. I have my own personal connection with my grandfather. He wasn't necessarily a hobo, but he did jump a train and drove all the way from Utah to Chicago to buy a truck for his family farm as a kid. And so it's kind of crazy to think about. Also, Aztec symbols, I think these are great little jewels of discovery. Symbols of hazards, you know, many of these, you know, we try to warn ourselves of things that are dangerous. Look to put some of these symbols there. Also more architectural symbols for plumbing. Just little things that make you wonder what's that about for the kids. As well as more architectural patterns that could be placed in these little icons. Wood texture, stone texture, reinforced concrete. They're all great little symbols. Symbols of semaphore, you know, something that's probably only used by the military now. If that, probably not. I think if it's any cost, it's an interesting way to communicate. Symbols from Africa. Some cloth imprint symbols that are great to look at. Just fun imagery. More symbols from packaging that you might come across in your daily life. You know, lots of great symbols. Recycling is another symbol that we use constantly. Symbols from Egypt. Opportunities there. Of course, our zodiac symbols. Symbols in our healthcare system. Symbols and signs on our roads. And those signs are almost limitless. So lots of opportunities to create these. We have 310 symbols to fill up. So we definitely have enough opportunity to not have to repeat anything with these symbols. So this is my proposal, to use these things in these little bubbles that float across this landscape. So I'll leave that to you. Any questions?
Curiosity. Printed and then recessed into this.
The recess, so the main panel is The stainless steel panel that's gray here, that's stainless steel. These are panels that are applied to the front of the powder coat, so it has a relief there to it. And then the hole is a circle that's been cut through the panel, so it'll have a panel applied to the backside. So one option is to have a printed circle to a piece of material and then have that applied to the back, or to engrave through a powder coat material onto that.
Sorry, Tyler, Ella, are you able to see the screen right now?
All right, now.
No, I can't see it.
So sorry. This is in the design packet that was mailed out, so
Yeah, I was doing my best to follow along.
sure.
Thank you. Now I can see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this being, I think Ella, I'm pretty sure you saw this last time I was here. So we're just giving you an idea of what symbols we might be using within this project.
Is there a key?
I do not have a key. I was planning on creating a key. If the library wants to create a key, that'd be fine. And I could provide that, what these symbols mean. So they could look them up, explore them a bit, yeah.
So I think that I'm struggling just a little bit with just the overall arbitrary nature of the selection or selections. And maybe that's intentional, that it's fully arbitrary, but can you speak to that?
Well, these are symbols that are, being the artist, it's like these are things that I find interesting, and they do seem arbitrary, but it's like, but I like that, I like this, I like that. And I don't see why sharing that with teens is I don't think I really want to create a narrative of I'm not trying to create a story. It's just these things that float through the air, and they become part of who we are and what we are. I think we've all had experience.
Before you answer that too far, I'm just gonna tack on to it a little bit,
Okay.
and that way, because it'll be one answer for you, you won't have to do it twice. My concern kind of plays off what Jeff's saying, but I'm having a hard time visualizing how each of these play together. And are they just randomly put up? Is there a?
Yeah, there's no perception, there's no, yeah.
How do you tie it all together? And I'm gonna let you take Jeff's question to mine, turn it into one answer if you want, or you can separate.
Well, I think they are tied together just because they're symbols. They're not words. They're not. There's no paragraphs. There's no sentences. It's just a symbol that has meaning, and so it's not about trying to share a narrative. We're not trying to share, a story behind it. We're just like, someone's going to have a connection with one of these symbols, at least, right? Or they might be attracted to a symbol and want to understand what that symbol is. And it becomes a means of discovery and learning within that space. And so, some of these symbols will be automatic recognition and some of them won't. But even the ones you don't recognize, I think there's enough intrigue in it to at least look at them and find them. And then this is the jewel for those that want to look. Is the way I kind of look at it. It's the part that it's the reward at the end of the path, or at the end of the experience, where you see the overall form, you're in that space, you see the landscape. If you really want to go further, you can experience these little symbols. And I think that's what I'm trying to give the viewer is an opportunity to experience things on their own. Where I'm not trying to feed you anything, I'm not trying to create a narrative, I'm not trying to create a story, but within these symbols, you can find meaning, you can find understanding, you can find joy in just the shape and the form and viewing an image.
So, and I'm good with your answer. For me, a first grader is going to approach this totally different than a fifth grader in knowledge and skill. And
Right.
hopefully this takes that first grader and makes them want to learn more as they go through each of the grades. It's kind of how I look at it, right or wrong. It's just how I look at it. I'm fine with what you have. I'm good. There's part of me that wants that, start that educational process with them. And I don't know what that means, but encourage them. I don't know if it's taking one symbol and explaining what it is and how it happened, or I don't know the answer. And just instead of just having the symbols, I'd like it to be an educational process. But that said, any other comments from design council members?
Here, each of the little images, are you gonna leave the description with it, or will it just
No,
be
no.
the symbol
It's
itself?
symbol
Okay.
alone. There'll be no explanation. Where if you find the symbol, you want to know what it is, you could, if the library wants to create a key for it or something like that, could be fun and look these things up.
Thinking like more of like a Google image search, like you can take a picture, like that's what we do all the time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely could.
I would just say, I think it's fantastic. I really like it.
Thanks.
But I kind of get into these symbols too, and I get to see kids getting and just, all day long following that. So I think I see where you're going with it. It's really cool.
Very treasure mappy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler, being our graphic artist, do you have any input you'd like to throw out to us?
You noticed my mic was you noticed my mic was unmuted, didn't you? So I kind of fall in line with Jeff and Phil. I'm struggling a bit with the randomness of it, and I appreciated your answer. And I do get that, and I do like the idea of it being. I like everything that everyone is saying. It's kind of treasure map. You kind of want the kids to dive in a little bit further. As a graphic artist, I do kind of worry about there not being any instruction at all. Without instruction, it just kind of becomes aesthetic, which is our job, to judge aesthetics. But being a library, I believe it also needs an educational value. So without even just a simple prompt, or something of, ask the librarian about these, or, even just a simple QR code they could scan to even just not even tell them what they are, but just to kind of lure them in, stir the curiosity. I feel like it might be lost. I feel like it may just be judged as aesthetic, and not as a learning potential. So that is my main concern. I don't know. And I know, actually, we just dealt with this with our family. We had bought a book, we were reading it to our kids, and there was like a QR code you could scan to listen to it. And since that book was published, that QR code has expired or something, and what we were trying to look up. So I know that it's not as simple as well, you just create a QR code and it lives on forever. Like, I know that there would be some maintenance side of that for the city. So I don't know that that's the answer. Yeah, I don't know if it's a printed item that the librarian just keep on hand. I know that my kids, I have 3 from 4 to 12. I know that they would probably, without there being something to draw them in, like something, maybe even something hidden that or that like starts the like at one side, it's just like, some sort of cue. I think they would just kind of look as this is like, oh, it's kind of a neat pattern. It's just kind of a neat, and the opportunity to dig in might be lost. That's really my only critique. I like the idea, but I feel like without some sort of cue to dig in deeper, it does feel just a little too random for me. But I think if you encourage them, just even in one simple point, to investigate, then I think it becomes, the randomness starts to serve a purpose.
Okay. Ella, do you have any comments? Or are you good?
I think, you know, the way that I can't remember how these are gonna actually be represented, if there's gonna be something that makes them more cohesive in the way that you represent them. I can't remember if you said you're gonna have color, or they're all gonna be the same color, or they're cut out, or I can't remember that part. They're all gonna be a similar shape. I can't remember that. If there is, can you speak to that really quick? Like,
Sure. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna powder coat that back material, and then we're going to laser etch that material off into that, in that shape, or that icon, or that symbol. So
okay.
the plan now is just to have all one color so that they're become cohesive in that, but then within each of those, so each one of those holes, it'll have a different symbol. So you have cohesiveness of color
Okay.
within that space. And then, you know, it may, I've never been an artist where I feel like I need to feed this to every viewer, right? And so, and because some people are not going to want to know about it, and some people are not going to have a desire to learn the story. It's for those that have the desire. And I think that's part of, an important part of life. You know, you have to have a desire to learn and to understand and want to know things. And so having, you know, a cheat sheet right there, I don't think that's really kind of what I would like to see. I like to have some discovery happening on their own, and not just, where's the key at? You know, and maybe there is a key, but it's not like, here's the QR code and I can just go to it with my phone and whatever. And we have to remember too, this is for the teen area and not for the, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 4-year-old kids. It is for those that are maturing in age, so that I feel like it's more appropriate for them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think having a that was one of my things. I think since you're having a more cohesive representation where it's the same, you know, it's the same type of color, the same type of treatment, that's going to make all these different things come together more cohesively. It's hard to represent that just like this, because it looks like, oh, you have 15 different things, but well, I don't think it'll appear that way when you actually fabricate, because you're going to have the same process for every symbol that you represent. So I think it will appear more cohesive. I'm glad you said the thing about the team thing, because I was like, I don't know about all these mutilated fingers and electrified humans on the hazard signs. I'm about to comment about that, but if it's a team space, they got to see that stuff sooner or later anyway. So, but if it was little kids, I'd be like, don't show them the fingers getting cut off and the blood and the crunched up in the gears. But they probably have to see that at high school in their shop class anyway.
We can't protect people forever.
No, they're gonna see those hazard signs. So
yeah.
I did have one more note. I'm a bit hesitant to include I agree with Ella. If it was a kid space, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I don't know about the the biohazard toxic mass thing. But my main concern is does the city have any concerns with the astrology signs?
No. I think maybe my
Okay.
only follow-up question maybe to that, and with all the general signs using, are there any copyright concerns, or these all exist within public domain?
I'll make sure that they are, yeah.
Even, do you know what your timing is on this? You trying to start this
Yeah.
last week?
Yeah, last week.
Steve, I got one more little thing,
Okay.
and I think maybe this is maybe what more I think about it, and you speak to it. So the emojis or the, the faces are representative of emotion. Okay, they represent something. It's pretty obvious what they represent. If we get into some of these kinds of things, these shapes, and unless they represent something else, they represent literally what it is. A flashlight's a flashlight. Right? And then we get into some of these others, the other symbology later, and they all kind of represent something that's not the symbol. They're representative of a thing, of an emotion, of a feeling, of an event or something like that. So they're representative of something else. I think the literal nature of these symbols, the ladybug is not representative of, of
nature and wildlife.
yeah, it's a ladybug.
Right, yeah.
So maybe are there symbols, and maybe you've already kind of weeded these out, that are not, that are representative of something other than what they are, but still appropriate for use. That makes sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. At the same time, I want to have some things in there that it's like, I mean, that's just a couple pages as in the whole 300, where, oh, there's a ladybug, okay, and so, but that's okay just to see a ladybug and understand it's ladybug. Oh, it's a paperclip. I understand paperclips. It's like there's an immediate connection to that is important just as much as a zodiac symbol, which all of us probably have a hard time recognizing. Maybe you know your own, right? And so having some symbols in there that just represent themselves, I think it's the low fruit,
Yes.
right? But it's some people need the low fruit, and it's not all low fruit, but there is some low fruit. Some people are only going to be able to get the low fruit. Some people are going to be able to get the high fruit. But I think by having it all high fruit, I think it eliminates some opportunities for people to understand and to explore.
Okay. So is there a way to intermingle some of the lower hanging fruit with the older, I say older symbology versus the newer symbology, where some of the newer symbology actually does represent something other than what it is? So you kind of get an overlay, those things. So not all the contemporary symbology is literal, and not all the historic symbology is representational.
Well,
Maybe I'm overcomplicating.
yeah, it's like, I think about, in the emojis, it's like people have taken these symbols and created their own, whatever it means, like it's a sexual thing, like an eggplant, right? It means something totally different now. It has nothing to do about vegetables. And so, if that's the case, then I need to put eggplant back in, right? But I don't think that's appropriate.
Correct.
Right. So, and usually most of these symbols of today that are meaning something else are relatively inappropriate. Right. So, I'm not sure how we would ever achieve that.
Okay, design council members, any further questions, or do we have anybody ready to put a motion out for us to discuss? I'll move to approve it. Motion from Matt to approve as presented. Yes, Ella, you were gonna say something?
The only other one I would make sure with the sign language is that you don't have gang signs in there, like the C,
Okay.
I would just look. You could just do a Google search real fast and look up
Okay.
gang signs, and then you could see that you maybe don't want that one.
Sure.
That's the only other thing I would look at.
Okay, so we got a motion on the floor from Matt to approve as presented. Is there a second to that motion? Yes, he seconds it. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
So I think it was 5-1. Don't know that I heard else. But I think it's 5-1 with Tyler in opposition.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all for attending. We've got 3 items that I know of on the as may rise. Lindsay, I don't know if it's appropriate. Can I ask for a 3-minute recess so I can go have a 2-minute conversation with Jesse before we do the as may rise?
Sure. 3-minute recess, but we'd love everyone to stay.
Yeah, don't run. Don't,
They're able to hang out.
don't leave, Kyler, now.
Okay.
You stand up. Validated.
we can get validated.
Do you need to validate?
Yeah.
I need no validation.
Here, this might be a good opportunity for validation. This wall.
I mean, I need a lot of validation.
Bring an umbrella. Umbrella.
Not raining. Take my chances.
On the rain 3 times this morning. I would have learned, but it's
Successfully
But the
validated.
second one?
Just scan it at the key. Like,
Stuck at the gate.
it's worked for me, so should be good. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, we're back. Back in action.
you like to take the first as may rise then?
No, I'm gonna turn them all over to you and I've got a thumbs up. I'm gonna let you roll through that in the order you want to do it relative to all 3 items.
Well, I'll start off with one secret item that I thought of during this meeting.
All right.
Which is the Public Art Archive is officially live and available for viewing. We issued a press release, I believe, last week. Time is flying really fast. This is a comprehensive overview of the public art collection that's now publicly accessible online. Publicartarchive.org is where Jana has lived for the last 1.5 years, getting the collection up to speed. It's by no means a final product. We will always be adding to it as we know more information. We're still closing out some recent projects, so the pools aren't listed. Chester I. Lewis isn't listed yet. But as we accession a new piece of public art into the collection, it goes into that archive. So anyone can search by artist, search by type of art. So if you want to see sculptures or murals, you can search by the type of art. And it has some significant mapping features as well. So you can find the exact location of where the piece is and a little bit of the origin of the piece, and we have a history on it. So kudos to Jana for really taking a boatload of data and putting it into a platform that is publicly accessible. So we're really excited about having this platform. It's a national platform, so it's not just Wichita. There are other works of public art in Wichita listed on Public Art Archive. Notably, the Ulrich Museum has all the collection out there.
We have most.
But it's just a great tool that we now have available. So we're really excited about that. The other one, just a reminder, is that the Design Council CIP subcommittee meets later this week on Wednesday. Is that correct?
Correct.
And we hope to have the final recommendations at the next Design Council meeting. So next Design Council meeting in July, we really would love to have forum so we can move those things forward. We do have one project in particular from 2023 that is on the back burner. It's not moving as quickly as we thought. So we are going to be requesting to reallocate the 2023 funding amount for the project that didn't get off the ground, just so we don't lose that. So more to come on that for those who are on this.
Going to do that July 1st.
Yeah.
Be ahead on that one, just being the holiday week.
Yeah.
Forum problem.
I'm not gonna be here.
We may have to check that one, or we may need to
Moving it to the
Schedule
following
to the next Monday.
move to the 8th.
I'll reach out to everyone and see whether.
Figure it out.
So before you keep going, so I don't forget this, Jan, we need to decide on the 1st. But every single design council member, including the chair who's scolding everybody, nobody RSVP'd that they were going to be here today. So I walked in here this morning, Jana had no idea how many members were coming.
It said, let me know if you can't come.
Yeah.
So I didn't, because I thought you just wanted to know if we couldn't.
So let's
That makes sense, Jesse.
Sorry.
probably do that to yes or no. And I was also going to say, would you also, in this little scolding you're going to send out from the chair's request, maybe put the email link to the Public Art Archive on that so everybody can pull it up, take a look at it, and get to know it.
Absolutely. And with that, also, thank you for all your last minute cancellation. Last month was day one of the cybersecurity incident with the city. So we were scrambling. We're very thankful to have technology today in our favor, but every day has been a little bit different. So thank you for your flexibility with last month's meeting. Moving right along, an item that I don't necessarily have any concrete information here, but term limits are up for majority of the council, or we need to reappoint design council members. We have several design council members who have been wonderful senior members of this council, but who are slightly past the term limit of 4 terms. So we have 3 members that we're working with the mayor's office on figuring out appointments. And then we have several members who are just starting their 4th term, which would be a final term. So you can serve 4 2-year terms consecutively on the council. So we're working with the mayor's office and figuring out what her intent is. We provide a list of names for various seats, and we have a somewhat healthy list of applicants to the design council as well. But we'll reach out with each individual member to see how it impacts your seat. Once we have an inkling of where the mayor is going, we've met with her, we've given her some information. She has not told us what she intends to do, but as soon as we have an idea, we'll let individual members know from that standpoint.
And I think that got really slowed down due to the hack.
Some other things rose on the priority list.
Also while we're doing that, the staggering of the.
Yes, we're hoping to stagger the seats, specifically of those where we have 2 seats. So we have 2 landscape architects, 2 architects, 2 engineers. We would like those to be on rotating terms so that we always have 1 in that seat. We have several, well, actually, I think only the graphic designers are only single unit seat. So that seat would change over as needed, but every other at-large artist, all are 2 professions represented. So we're hoping to stagger that. So we're working with her on recommendations. If you have recommendations, feel free to let us know as well. But we're hoping to, at minimum, get Greg Ellison's engineer seat filled relatively soon. And the last one is Arts Council appointee. Chairman, would you like to take that conversation?
So
I'm happy to tackle it.
no, I'll be glad to take that. So design council is always representative on the Arts Council committee. Ella has done that for the last, I won't say 2 years, but it might be 4. Ella, you may have to correct me on that. I know you've been on there for a while. We were looking to just put new blood in different spots throughout this. So that's what I was asking Jesse. I was supposed to ask Jesse before I got here today, and I failed to do that. But I was asking Jesse if she was willing to be our Arts Council representative for the Design Council. She told me in the hallway that she would be glad to fill that position. She would like a little more detail that I couldn't quite give her on monthly meetings and times.
Sure. Second Thursday of the month at noon. It might be third Thursday. I can get you the
It's third
exact
Thursday.
third Thursday, because it's the same as your board meeting, right, Ella?
Yes.
Which makes
Yeah.
attendance a little tricky. So third Thursday at noon in the City Arts Boardroom. And this is an ex officio board position that's really just to serve as a liaison between the two groups.
And Ella, anytime when you get your voice back, we will give Jesse your contact and maybe you can give her a little background from your experience on the Arts Council.
Sure, that sounds fine. I had a question about the committees. What, I never heard who was on what committee.
Anna? CIP, did we switch Ella and Armando? Okay, so this year we switched in a variety to keep everybody as educated as we can on the processes. Ella, we put Armando on the CIP review and we put you on the artist committee that Jeff has been chairing.
That we've done nothing on for a while, so just be clear.
Phil's
You haven't
pushing, we're
you
gonna
haven't
pick
missed
that.
anything.
Phil's pushing, we're gonna pick that up again. And that artist one was kind of how we go through the process of selecting artists and just the overall process of how the city is going about putting artists on design teams.
And we can send a list of who's on what committee. Email from Jana with a public art archive link. Just so everyone knows
Okay.
who's on what.
Any other questions? I know staff's done. Any other questions from design council members before we adjourn for the day? All right, I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Second. All those in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
Hey.
Uh,
Thank you all. Hey,